show you. Hold on.
What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today, oh my goodness, we have got to talk about supers. So, with the launch of Act 2 in episode Revenant of Destiny 2, Bungie made a massive change to supers. Specifically, they buffed the crap out of roaming supers in terms of the regeneration. You're getting roughly 3 times as much super regeneration right now when using a roaming super than you were before the launch of Act 2. But it turns out the way Bungie calculates damage and super regen means that you can just change a couple of things on your loadout and get absurd super regeneration. In fact, not just for getting kills, guys, doing DPS. If you use the right combination of things, you can get your super back just damaging a raid boss with a primary weapon in 15 seconds. And so, let's get started. Now, what the heck is going on here? There were some claims made at the beginning of this video, and it all again has to do with roaming supers and the crazy things you can do with them. Now, at a base level, just playing Act 2 myself, I've absolutely noticed an increase to the amount of time I am getting roaming supers, right? So if I'm playing Contest of Elders right here, I'm using my Consecration Titan build, and I have the Blade Fury roaming super as my super, and I'm getting it pretty darn often. It's pretty sweet. However, if we specifically try to exploit this super regeneration system, that's where we can do some absurd things. So here's what's going on. It seems like every instance of damage gives you super energy. So what that really means is that if you're using a slow shooting scout rifle, you're getting way less super than if you were using a fast shooting auto rifle, because the auto rifle is just hitting the target so much more. You are generating so many more instances of super regen, right? And again, that's not entirely how it works, but that should conceptualize what exactly is going on here. So I'm going to show you guys a very pungent example. So I'm here in the Last Wish raid against my best friend Callie, and importantly, I'm using a hunter with Golden Gun. For whatever reason, Bungie counted Golden Gun as a roaming super. I guess it technically is, but this is where things really go wild, because obviously getting Golden Gun multiple times during a boss damage phase is incredibly powerful. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just shoot off my Golden Gun. I'm just trying to get it off, and then I'm going to DPS Callie as much as I can with my grenade launcher. And this is just going to simulate a normal damage phase, right? I use my super, I whip out the edge transit, I don't activate bait and switch, but that's not really the point. It's just showing you what a normal damage phase is going to do in terms of super regen. And you can see as I am damaging Callie, I am getting super energy back for my Golden Gun, for my roaming super. And after around 19 seconds, I get around halfway of my super recharged, okay? So, keeping that test in mind, I'm now going to switch my loadout to prioritizing as many instances of damage as possible. So I'm going to be using the Wither Horde, because that's going to tick damage in the background, and then I'm just going to use this 600 RPM auto rifle from the new dungeon with jolting feedback. That's going to provide, again, even more instances of damage. Now, what this really means is that I want as many damage numbers to be popping up as possible, and just look at the difference. Because I've swapped to a fast-firing auto rifle plus the Wither Horde, plus I get some jolting feedback, I now get to that halfway point in only 11 seconds. Guys, that's a big change. I've nearly halved the amount of time it took to get to this halfway point, and really importantly, I did way less damage. I mean, seriously, just using an auto rifle plus the Wither Horde compared to just absolutely going to town with, to start with, a 16 round mag of the Edge Transit, I did way less damage. But because I am just triggering that check mark, like, okay, you did damage, you're gonna get super, check. And I'm using a fast firing weapon, I'm using that jolt, I'm using Wither Horde, I have so many damage numbers popping up. And so that is going to give me significantly more super regeneration. And you don't have to commit this hard. This means that anything that does tick damage in the background, so the Wither Horde, the new Area Denial Frame grenade launchers, and another great example, the Anarchy, all of those things just became way, way better if you are using any sort of roaming super specifically. And again, Golden Gun is the best example of how to abuse this. So if you were maybe not using the Wither Horde and you're DPSing with something else, now 100% put on that Wither Horde. Those extra ticks, every single one, will give you a big chunk of super energy, and you could potentially have a huge difference in a damage phase between getting your super, once or getting it twice, right? So that's one thing, damage over time weapons. Now, another thing is going to be weapon perks that trigger additional instances of damage. So I already gave the example of jolting feedback, but another great one is kinetic tremors. So every single time you pop for kinetic tremors damage, you also get a chunk of super energy now, and a much more considerable chunk with roaming supers. So if you have kinetic tremors popping off consistently, that is also going to give you a massive amount of super regen compared to if you don't have that. But it's when we get into exotic weapons with, their special exotic perks, things really get wild. And first of all, I have to shout out the example you guys saw at the beginning of the video, the Outbreak Perfected. This encompasses exactly what I'm talking about. I'm just using an Area Denial Frame plus Outbreak. I'm not doing anything crazy, guys, but because every shot of Outbreak counts as an instance of damage, so it gives you a chunk of super, and then every nanite you spawn also counts as, again, you've done damage, check, here's super. The nanite swarm is just out of control. You are dealing so many ticks of damage that your super energy regen is just through the roof. And like, the Outbreak is a good DPS weapon. It's not absolutely insane, but you can 100% use it. And if I'm getting my super back in only 15 seconds because I'm using it, that is crazy. And again, it's not like I'm saying you have to rely on this and use this totally for DPS. No. Use a god tier heavy grenade launcher, but then when you run out of ammo, switch to the Outbreak and you're going to get your super back in the blink of an eye. That is where the real power of this knowledge comes from, is like, you could probably make an easy swap to something like the Outbreak, still keep your DPS legendary heavy grenade launcher, and then just get that benefit of massive super energy. And it's not just when you're shooting raid bosses, it's when you're shooting anything, right? However, before we move on to some other weapons that will give you insane super regeneration, staying with the Outbreak Perfected, there's actually another massive exploit that's going on right now, and that is, even though it specifically says you shouldn't get the roaming super regeneration rate if you're using the Celestial Nighthawk, as you can see right here, when I use the Celestial Nighthawk, my super is still flying up with the Outbreak Perfected. So that is a really important thing. Like, if this was just gimmick before, now it's the real deal. You are getting Celestial Nighthawk activations potentially every 15 seconds. That is some crazy DPS. So, moving on from there, another weapon we saw give a huge chunk of fast super regen was the Malfeasance, right? You get a bunch of shots and then you get all of those different explosions at once. That gives you a huge chunk of super energy. That is pretty sweet as well, guys. And then after that, another all-star was actually the Thunderlord, right? Not only does this weapon increase its own rate of fire, but on top of that, guys, you also have those lightning strikes coming down, and all of that, as you can see, absolutely makes your super fly up. Like, you are just going to be getting so many supers with the Thunderlord. Now, those are some of the best examples. There's other stuff like, for example, the Quicksilver Storm, right? That wasn't that insane, but you have those extra little seeking missiles that cause that extra chunk of super energy, so that's going to be better than your average auto rifle. And we weren't able to extensively test every single, weapon, exotic combo, ability, etc. in the game, so there's probably even more potential combos out there that we haven't discovered. But that is absolutely the main takeaway of this change, is that you can utilize all those things I recommended, weapons that deal a lot of damage numbers, to cheese the super generating system within the game and just give you insane super regeneration rate. And so guys, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. Now, if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickKakis. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.